Good afternoon to you all, friends, foes alike. You boys from Table 5, courtesy of the Sports Bar. Adam Fuller running point. I'm going to bring up the rear. That didn't sound right. Anyways, how you doing, my man? Fine summer day. Summer's finally here. NBA basketball ad nauseum is over. How you feeling?
Feeling pretty good. Another baseball for about a month. Yeah. Well, we close to July, so, I mean, football, will be here about another month, about 6 weeks from now, so.
Before we dive into our big topic, obviously, of Doc Rivers being the new Clippers head coach, let's go ahead and get into a few baseball updates here. What you got hot on the plate, my man?
Well, yeah, Dodgers and Giants, they're playing a 3 or 4 game series. Started last night. Dodgers was able to win. But everybody's talking about their young rookie, Yasiel Puig, whether he should be an all-star or not. I mean, the guy's batting over 400, has 7 home runs. In his first career 20 games, he has 34 hits and 7 home runs, and that's never been done in the history of baseball. So,
wow.
I mean, he's out here making history. But a lot of people don't think he should be an all-star because he doesn't have enough at-bats and he hasn't been in the league, long enough. But, I mean, with the game, it matters. But also, I mean, you want to get ratings and stuff, too, because baseball is always looking for ratings, more interest. And I'm like, hey, why not? I mean, if he continues to hit like this for another 2 weeks before the All-Star break, why not add him, as a bench player? He doesn't have to play in the game, but, I mean, if he's there, I mean, I don't think that'll be a huge deal.
Well, my thing is I think what the problem is with him is I think it's because, maybe it's a West Coast thing where a lot of people don't get to see him play. They don't really, the coverage is just not. I mean, I think a lot of people, they miss the whole idea when I talk about East Coast bias in sports. They really miss it. I mean, you have a lot of sports reporters out there who literally act like, DVR don't work anymore, and they have to see a game live in order to form an opinion on it. And to me, it's a shame because you talk about ratings, and I think that's what it's all about. This guy is a rating machine. I mean, this guy, to me, it's like last year when you saw Trout for the Anaheim Angels, the guy had you so hyped up and pumped up because you wanted to see what he was going to do, just the potential of him to do something made you stand up and like, wow, we're getting ready for, Trout's coming up. And this guy Puig, man, he has that same thing. He has that same, everybody knows I'm a Giants fan. I can't stand the Dodgers, but I tune in when this guy's up to bat because I like to see what he's going to do. It's good for baseball. But again, this is what I keep talking about when I say why does baseball keep stepping on its own tail? Can't get out of its own way. One ray of hope, positive shining light this season is this rookie just tearing the cover off the ball, and you don't want him in the All-Star game? Who are you? Who are the people? That's what I'm saying. Put your name on it. Who is out there really bragging and boasting like, oh, Puig don't deserve to be in the All-Star game and he don't deserve? Who is doing that? Or is it just the media creating
the manager, your own manager, Bruce Bochy of the Giants, he's the manager of the All-Star game. So him and the coaching staff, they kind of, have a say on the bench players. And then also pitching staff-wise, they have a saying in that. And then there's also, like, the final vote, like the last player on the roster. But that's up to the fans. It's on the internet, things like that. So I don't have any control over that.
I get that. I get that. What I'm saying is, who is putting up this huge fight to not have a guy play in the All-Star game that is having the kind of season that Puig is having this year? Who's putting up that fight? And see, that's what I'm saying.
I would say some media people. I would say mostly the media.
Right. That's my problem. That right there is my problem. Because, again, we don't see players saying Puig shouldn't play in the All-Star game. We don't see that. We don't see Major League owners coming out and being against a guy who's got 7 home runs and yada, 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 and the whole credential like you just ran off. We don't see managers and owners saying, oh, this guy shouldn't play. He has no place around. Are you kidding? Baseball is in such bad need of a facelift, it's ridiculous. And here it is for you on a silver freaking platter, and you got people, I mean, who are you? You got people out there who don't want to see this guy in the All-Star game? I mean, really? That's my point, dude. That's why I said I hate the media, because the media controls it all. They will tell you there are people out there objecting to Puig being in the All-Star game, but they will not tell you who these people are, because for them it is simply good enough to have you on this sort of cliffhanger of like, who, somebody doesn't want him in, and try to sway your opinion, and maybe they don't want him in. Maybe they don't want him in. Maybe it's their personal, their own personal opinion, or they have their own personal agenda. Who knows? But we never seem to see who objects to everything that's going on, because they never seem to put their name to it. And that to me is chicken scratch, straight up. It's a family show, so I ain't going to use the word. But, that's just my personal side note on that. I think the dude should play. Obviously, I think he should start, to be honest with you. I think he should start, because Major League Baseball, again, is in such bad need of a facelift. That's number one. Number two, the All-Star game to me is not necessarily who's having the best year. In my opinion,
it's about
I think
the name.
Major League. Thank you. And it's about who's hot. It's about who's hot right now. Who's tearing the cover off the ball, because that's who we want to see. We don't want to see this guy in a slump. We don't want to see some guy that we've had tagged to go to the All-Star game since November, and the guy gets in the All-Star game, he has no hits or anything, and he's just there to, sign autographs. We don't want that guy. We want a legitimate game, because after all, the Major League Baseball All-Star game has one advantage over all the rest of the All-Star games, and you already know what it is. Theirs determines home field advantage. So we're playing for something. We're playing for something. We're not out there, sure, it's for the kids, and it's summer, and there's nothing else on TV, and yada, 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 all good. But we're playing for something. It means something. And in fact, I love that, because I think that should be in more sports. I think more, emphasis should be on All-Star games. It's an exhibition game. Most of the players don't want to be in it anyway. It's an autograph. It's a business trip that you're not getting paid for. There's no stats being kept. I mean, you know what I mean? It's an invisible game. But baseball said, look, we're going to make this mug count. We're going to make it matter. So now you have the hottest guy in Major League Baseball right now, and you actually got people out there, so the media claims, you got people out there who say that this guy shouldn't be in the All-Star game. Baseball. Baseball. It's funny, man. It's funny. It's funny. I don't mean to be a critic. I know you love the sport more than anything, but it just seems like your sport, man, it cannot get it right. It cannot get it right. Bud Selig should step in and be like, look, this guy's going to the All-Star game. This guy gets the votes. He's going in, period. So anyway, but nevertheless, a good set. I'll be watching it. Giants-Dodgers is always a good one. Seeing if we can get 2 out of 3 versus Magic Johnson's latest investment, which I'm still trying to swallow, because I don't know what capacity he's even helping them or even contributing. But, nevertheless, God bless the brother.
I just think, Magic provides that face that LA fans are familiar with, and he had some type of pedigree, even though it was in basketball, but he brought so much, a winning aspect to the LA market. I just think that's why,
Absolutely. Well, I'm not. Far be it from me to question Magic Johnson's pedigree. That's not what I'm doing. What I'm saying is I watched the press conference. I watched the whole, episode. It felt very fabricated to me. It felt very staged, very phony. It was sort of like, okay, we're going to attach Magic's face to it so that we, the other investors, the majority owners, we don't have to take any heat. Everybody's going to look at Magic at the end of the day, because the Dodgers stink. They do. They stink. Let's face it. They're nowhere close to. They're nowhere close to a championship. They were closer to a championship in the Manny years, and that was a debacle. They took that chance on Manny, and they were closer. They went to the NLCS. Okay, so this team stinks on ice. So you better put Puig in there, because he's the only recognition I think the Dodgers are going to get this year. So, that's just my personal take.
Pretty much only him and probably Kershaw, deserve to be there as far as the Dodger players.
Sure. But let's move on, man. Let's move on. Obviously, you wanted to talk a little bit of tennis. I know we're going to be brief on that one because I really don't know too much. I know Nadal was upset, but go ahead.
Yeah, Nadal's upset. I mean, he was I think the number 1 or 2 seed in the whole tournament. So, I mean, it's kind of a big deal because over the last 5 years, there's been Nadal, Djokovic, and, Federer is the top 3 guys. So, one of those guys to go down early to, not named, player is kind of a big deal as far as, men's tennis. Women, it's kind of been up and down. Serena's been somewhat on a upswing, and then, you get these other young girls in there. With Nadal going down, we'll see how it pans out. I'm pretty sure Djokovic or Federer, if they're in the tournament, they're going to be favored. Pretty much, summertime, Wimbledon is a big deal. It's Wimbledon, U.S. Open, and then, French Open just passed, a couple of months ago, so.
And that's what we got to look forward to look to in summer sports. Tennis. Anyway, moving right along, let's get into the big story, man. Obviously, Doc Rivers. My first thought on it is I'm pissed as all hell. Pissed to the highest level of pissivity. And I'll tell you why. First and foremost, when you have a league that comes out to block a potential trade of a player, you're under the impression that that league is either trying to do it the right way and keep things fair around the league, or you're under the impression that that league is up to something. Now, we obviously know that David Stern cares nothing about fairness. He's getting ready to leave the damn sport. He could care less. There's a great documentary out there called Sonic Gate that talks about the real story of how the Seattle Sonics, the shiesty way they left Seattle, and, David Stern was right behind it. He was the mastermind, basically, of the whole thing. I mean, he co-signed on everything that was foul with the deal. So, I don't trust him as far as I can throw him, and I know he's a midget rat bastard, but I probably still couldn't throw him too far. Anyway, my point is, I hate this deal. You block Chris Paul from going to the Lakers. Now you're just letting the floodgates open and anything goes. Now you're just letting any and everybody just go everywhere. And some people will say, well, what about Dwight? They let Dwight come to the Lake. Really? Who do you think was really politicking on the Lakers for Dwight Howard to come to L.A.? Because it sure as hell wasn't Kobe Bryant. That was Jim Buss's whole project. That was his move. That was Dwight Howard, I think. I think Dwight got suckered into coming to L.A. That's why he was so lackluster about it. I was in the store this afternoon, and there was a lady, the checker, in the grocery store. The checker was saying, we don't let Dwight Howard get his whiny ass out of here. I think he was duped into coming here. He got here. He realized he was going to have to work. It wasn't going to be palm trees and blonde women and commercials and selling your shoes. He was going to actually have to work. He got cold feet. Nah. But it's amazing to me how David Stern pumped his fist all week talking about how they can't make trades for players for coaches, and if they're doing anything illegal, we'll catch it. And at the end of the day, it still shakes out. Boston gets the first-round pick in 2015, and the Clippers get Doc Rivers. That's part one. Part two, before I get your take on it, I'll be quick. Part two is this. Really, Jim Buss? You got guys like this coming down the pipeline, B. Shaw, who we'll get to in just a second, going to Denver, Lionel Hollins, who just had Memphis within a game or two of going to the final. Phil's still floating out there. We had Phil Jackson. Doc now, who I think has been one of the, far and away, easily one of the best coaches in the entire NBA since he was in Orlando. And you go get 420 winning percentage, Mike D'Antoni. Wow. Really? I mean, really? You got a chance to take Holly Berry to the prom and you show up with Lindsay Lohan? Are you serious? Man, I just, like I said, I weep for the future of the Lakers because Doc is going to coach his ass off. I think this is all but solidified Chris Stan. They're going to add a few pieces. We know that. But it's going to be a mindset. It's going to be a mindset change, man. The Clippers are not going to be lollygagging at all. Because, see, here's the difference. When Vinny was here, Vinny caught all the flack when you lost. So you didn't have to take losses real serious. Losses didn't kick your ass like they're going to under Doc. See, losses were kind of like, oh, we're the Clippers. It's cool. Vinny's going to take it. My cousin Vinny is going to take the hit anyway, so I ain't tripping. Blake Griffin, oh, I'm lollygagging and loafing around and flopping and stuff. You're not going to be able to get away with that stuff under Doc. Doc is about to kick your ass into shape because his ass kicking, in my opinion, was underestimated because you had a bunch of tough guys in Boston in the first place. So you really didn't have to throw your weight around. Paul Pierce, tough guy. KG, tough guy, with a big mouth and backs it up. Perkins, big baby. Rondo, a point guard with a chip on his shoulder. You played with some dogs. I mean, he coached some dogs. And you coming out here, the only dog they really got barking is Chris. So, Clipper fans, man, you got to be ecstatic. And I'm happy for you. I'm happy. As a Laker fan, I'm happy for you because that dude, man, Doc Rivers is the truth. He is the truth. Respected. People love him. I mean, you like the deal?
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. They get a first-round pick 2015, so figure that's like 2 seasons from now. You would think that would be a low first-round pick because you expect them to be in the playoffs, things like that. Over the next 2 seasons, 3 seasons, that he's there, and then also I found out I was reading up on it. They can't exchange, the Clippers and Celtics can't exchange players through trade or whatever until after the 2014 season. So I guess that's, so it doesn't seem like they're helping each other out, I guess, or I don't know exactly what's that all about? But yeah, no doubt. I mean, Doc, he gets a fresh start. Young, pretty much a young nucleus. A couple of veteran guys still under contract. They're gonna, try to move a couple of pieces. Maybe get a couple of more bigger physical guys on the front line to help, Blake Griffin out. So in that way, he doesn't have to, he doesn't have to be the bully. He'll have other guys around him to do all that, and then he does his thing, on the court. And then,
well, it's a scary. Just as a side note to that, it's a scary proposition in the sense that I don't know if anybody notices this or not, but Chris is young. Chris Paul's young, man. Chris Paul has got about a minimum of 5 to 7 more years in the NBA. Minimum. And I'm talking about effective basketball. I'm not talking about, I want to see Kobe play for another 2 or 3 years and hope he sticks around after, he's already given you 17. No. Chris has got a legitimate, put some players around me. You're talking 5 to 7 years. And so that's why I said, man, this is a major blockbuster deal. They got some pieces that they're going to put around. But I think what you're not going to lack.
Do you have something that could screw the doorknob? Like that.
What you have to understand is that he's got a minimum of 3 years to whip this team into shape. He's got a minimum. He's going to get slack. I think he's going to get some buffering. I think he's going to get some time because when you look at the way the team is constructed, they have an opportunity. I mean, or am I misjudging?
No. I believe, the Western Conference, they're still one of the young teams, and they have some veteran guys mixed in to where, and then I think they're pretty flexible with their payroll right now. I mean, the only 2 guys that are going to get paid really are Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. Everyone else is, manageable contracts. Maybe DeAndre Jordan might be a guy they might have to move, but I think that's kind of expendable, spot. Yeah, I mean, OKC, Westbrook injury, it might take him a year to get back to full strength, off that knee injury. Every other team in the West is pretty old. I mean, Dallas, have the comely young guys, but they're kind of older core. San Antonio has an older core, but they're young nucleus. Like they have the experience now from the finals. So, but yeah, no doubt. I mean, with Doc Rivers in there with the Clippers, I mean, Denver, with B. Shaw, that'll be a good storyline. They're a playoff team. Memphis is a playoff team, but we don't know who their coach is going to be yet. So I would say, no doubt, right now, Clippers probably a top 4 seed next year, top 4, top 3 seed in the West.
Absolutely, and I think anything less would be a disappointment based on the season they had this year. In addition to, adding a Doc Rivers, he's a piece, man. He's a piece. It's a chess piece. I think he's one of that guys that disproves that myth of, the coach isn't a chess piece. The coach is irrelevant. The coach sort of just kind of brings up the rear. It's all the players. No, I still think it's very much a coach's league as well. Because you got guys that have to buy into a system. Lakers were not going to win a championship until Phil Jackson got here. That's just end of discussion. Certain guys have to buy into your system. And Doc was a perfect fit in Boston. They bought into what he dealt. True, they only got the one championship, but they went to the finals twice, and they were a contender every year, and they played hard. So he's definitely a wild card. How do you see B. Shaw shaping up, though, in Denver?
Well, it's a young nucleus. They have some playoff experience. I think you got some guys that, want to win and are determined to learn and, things like that. I think the main thing is, what type of system is he going to run? Because, he came from the triangle offense, but, he said he's not going to run the triangle. He might run some sets within the triangle emphasis. But for the most part, I mean, he's going to probably, add his own system. He got a young nucleus, young core, like to get up and down. So that's the type of system he might run, a little bit more up-tempo. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Andre Iguodala because he has like a player options. And he's probably their highest paid player. But
I think they're in need of a rebuild, and I think he's a great coach to start with a rebuild, because I think that B. Shaw, and this is just from a fan's perspective, I don't know. I haven't looked at B. Shaw enough on the coaching level, but I know he was solid as a player, and I know he was a good coach, and players bought into his system and respected him. Thing for me is this. Number one, I'm just glad the brother has a job. I really am. Because this guy has been looked over, passed over. I mean, like cafeteria meatloaf. It's like everybody is scared of this dude. Nobody's wanted to touch him. And it's amazing to me that, wow, this guy won a championship with the Lakers. This guy played with Shaquille O'Neal in Orlando. So this guy has been around big-time players. He's won a championship. This guy has been around big-time systems. Oh, by the way, he assistant coach under Phil Jackson. What did this guy have to do? Marry the commissioner's daughter? This guy, that he didn't get a look is a shame. I like him in Denver. I like that he's going to be able to build the system to his own liking. I just hope they give him the time. Obviously, he doesn't have the pedigree of a Doc Rivers, so his leash may not be as long, but I think it would be nice to see a young coach be given the opportunity, because I heard somebody say something the other day that I absolutely agree with, and I heard everybody shot it down and numbers never lie, and what are you talking about? I do think Eric Spoelstra is the greatest coach in Miami Heat history. He's had the most success. They were talking about Pat Riley. Pat Riley had all his rings before he got here, and sure, Pat put them on the map, and he helped to build, the foundation, of Miami even being a team that we consider. But Eric's had all the success. And you're talking about a guy who started off in the video room. So, coaches can come from everywhere, man. They can come from anywhere. And I'm just glad that B. Shaw has been given the opportunity. I hope that he's given the time. I'm personally thinking 2 or 3 years. He'll be given. Obviously Denver's not a major market. Denver is not a market that we're looking
at. They're more a football town.
Right.
You got the Broncos.
Right.
Broncos are number one over there. Denver, then it's Rockies, and then Nuggets are like right there, 1 and 2 and 3. I think.
Well, I'd actually say that the Denver Nuggets are probably third on their list of teams. A close second behind the Rockies, obviously. Or you could even probably put the Avalanche in there. The only reason I say that is because Denver Bronco football is so huge there, first off, that, it might as well be two sports. I think that Nuggets at best are a distant second, maybe even third. So that pressure is not there. However, I hope they build something around you. Don't just give, we get so tired of that, man. We talk about the black coaches. We talk about, a lot of that stuff, black quarterbacks and people of color being given the opportunity. But, don't ask me to make a silk purse out of a pig's ear. You know what I'm saying? Don't just throw.
It'll be interesting to see the two head coaches. I think the two most intriguing first time coaches is probably Brian Shaw to me, and then also Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd, no doubt he's going into a major market, and they're looking to win right now. especially with that, billion-dollar owner, so he's probably under a little bit more pressure than B. Shaw. But I think B. Shaw might end up
they fired. Well, in all fairness, not to cut you off, but just to interject there, in all fairness, they did fire Avery practically for nothing. I mean, you fired Avery for nothing. So that's a scary proposition. If I'm Jason Kidd, I'm real worried because I'm thinking to myself, Avery Johnson, you're talking about a former coach of the year. You're talking about a guy who's been to the finals. You're talking about a guy who was never given a sniff of an opportunity with the Brooklyn Nets. And they're no better this year than they were last year. So, as far as players and bringing guys in, obviously I think they missed on the Dwight Howard deal. That's where he wanted to go. I thought it would have been big for them. Even though New York is a big team, the Knicks are going to take all the heat, that from the media and whatever. The Knicks are going to shoulder the burden, so to speak. So if I'm him, I'm worried. But then again, I mean, look at, you don't have to give me Kobe Bryant or Carmelo Anthony. I mean, look at what Mark Jackson did with Golden State. Young guys, bunch of shooters. Those guys were hungry, though. He had those guys hungry. He had those guys fired up. That's why I say I think the NBA, more than any other sport, is a coach-dominated league. Because in football, you got 10 different coaches. In hockey, we never know who the coach is. In baseball, sure, the manager, he manages, but he's not even really called the coach. He's called the manager. He's not even really called. You can coach, but it's delegated. In basketball, the head coach is always under scrutiny. He's always under the microscope. His every move is always questioned. And you look at what Mark Jackson did in Golden State. That guy easily got robbed of Coach of the Year, in my opinion. But it's a tough sport to coach in. But again, if you're given any type of anything that resembles some good players, I think you can be successful. And so, I'm with you. I think that, I want Jason Kidd to do well. I do. It came from left field. I mean, that came from way left field.
That'll probably be the only time in history a guy retires and then a week or two later he's named the head coach of a franchise.
I've never heard of it in any sport.
I'd be very surprised if that ever happens again, but it could, but it'd be surprising.
I've never heard of it in any sport, and I like it. Surprisingly, I do, because I think that when you look at a lot of guys who we quote unquote think deserves the opportunity or whatever, when you look at a lot of guys like that, we never consider guys that just stop playing. We never look at those guys. We always say the same thing. Oh, I can see Kobe coaching years from now, or I can see so-and-so. You know what I'm saying? It's always down the road. It's always years down the road. We never say, damn. This dude, man, when he hangs the boots up that year, he could coach. He's a coach on the floor. You always hear him say that. But you never hear that guy become the coach. So, big ups to Jay Kidd, man. There's gonna be some new coaches in the NBA. I can't wait.
And it's like okay, like he knows the league. He just got out of the league, so he knows, how the game is called. He doesn't know the personnel. Well, they faced the Brooklyn Nets, 3 or 4 times this past season, so he kind of knows their personnel, things like that. Playing against them, weaknesses and strengths. And then also the way the game is called nowadays, it's not like he's been out of the game 5-10 years and it's called different than it is today. So,
great point.
That could be a benefit.
Great point.
Too.
It's still absolutely great point. It's still fresh with him. It's still fresh in his mind. He's still fresh with the league. Like I can assimilate into the league a lot better, even as a coach, because sure, it may be hard, but I know the ropes kind of. I just got out of here. You know what I mean? You just took your sneaks off. So, it's not going to be this huge adjustment of you getting to know how guys are nowadays and sensitivity and moods and plays and stuff like that because, that guy, he's been around the league a long time. So, surprisingly, yeah, I like the move. I do. I really do. I like the move. I think it was a good move for Brooklyn, to get a fresh face, a guy that we haven't seen before. I am tired of recycled guys. I hate recycled guys. No disrespect to some of the greats. George Karl, to me, is one of the great coaches. But again, the NFL does the same thing. You talk about Bill Parcells for 50 years after that guy retires. Every job that came up, Bill Parcells, Bill Cowher, they do it a lot in sports, that recycled coach stuff. And I'm just, I'm glad these teams are taking the opportunity because I didn't see the Mark Jackson deal. I didn't see that. When he went to Golden State, that hit me from left field. Like, what? He's on the sidelines. I mean, he's calling the games in the booth. Now this guy gets an opportunity. It's a good thing. It's definitely not a bad thing, but that's going to look funny. Doc freaking Rivers, man, down the hall. Laker fans. I'm feeling you. I'm feeling your pain because you cannot be a Laker fan and see Doc Rivers going to L.A. and be like, oh, it's cool. Really? I mean, league, you just blocked us from getting Chris Paul. And now Jim Buss has blocked us from getting any semblance of a good coach. I mean, are you serious? You trust Mike D'Antoni more next year than you did this year? I think this was the golden opportunity this year for Mike D'Antoni to have success with this Laker team. This was the year to catch lightning in a bottle. I say that all the time. And the reason why, main reason for me, the main reason is because, number one, I know it's a three-part answer, but the main reason is this. The last time we saw you, you weren't extremely successful in a major market. You were playing 420 basketball. You didn't get along with Carmelo Anthony. So you had some people out there trying to live off that pipe dream of you in Phoenix. That was years ago. You're talking like 10 years ago you was in Phoenix. So this was your perfect opportunity to come in a good system, but the stuff hit the fan almost from the beginning, man. He came in injured. You did the press conference on crutches. Then you want to bench Pau Gasol right away. Then you want to bench Kobe. Then you never say nothing to Dwight. You pile Dwight all year and wipe his butt, and put his tampers on for him and stuff all year and act like you don't know when Dwight's pouting and I don't know what happened. And come on, man. This was his year to assert himself, and I don't think he did a very good job of that. And I was very disappointed in him as a fan. But Doc Rivers, a coach of that caliber, that quality. It's funny, man. I'm trying to see when the next, I bet you they don't block Dwight going to Houston. And some people may say, well, the league didn't block him, coming to L.A. They let Dwight come to L.A. Well, you know what? That may be true. But if you really believe in your heart of hearts that Dwight wanted to come to L.A. in the first place, I got a bridge to sell you. Okay? And I can put your name right on the front of it if you want. That was a joke. You think Dwight Howard really wanted to come to L.A. That was a commercial move. That was a business deal. That was okay, L.A. Here. We know he ain't going to be squat when he's there, so here, go ahead and sell these tickets real quick. It'll piss Kobe off. I'm not a big conspiracy guy. I'm not. It just seems like, man, it's funny how the league will bitch and moan about certain deals, but then they'll let everything else just landslide through. That's crap to me. And I think this is one of those cases. So, yeah, I'm sour about Doc going to L.A. That's right. I said it. That's right. I said it. I am. I'm sour about it. And I love Doc. Love Doc Rivers. Most people don't even know his first name is Glenn Anton Rivers. Love Doc. Atlanta Hawks. Okay? Used to wear the flat top, the crew cut. Doc Rivers. Good shooter. Love that guy since he was a player. So it's not on him. I don't hate the player. I hate the game. And the game seems to be selling tickets and making commercials as opposed to winning championships. You know. So, anyway, that's my take on it. I don't know.
Yeah. You got the, 2 more days. We get some young meat, fresh meat in the NBA. The NBA draft is in 2 days.
Yep.
So, some local guys, Shabazz Muhammad, I actually got to see him play in high school. He coming out of UCLA, 6'4" guard. He's looked to be maybe a first-round pick. And then also, no doubt, the local guy out of Long Beach State, James Ennis, be looking at him. He's, been getting worked out by like 15 teams. Casper Ware, he was, all-world at Long Beach State, but he only got worked out by like 3 teams. So there's no doubt, I believe, Ennis will get drafted. Now the question is, will he be a first-round pick? Because first-round picks are guaranteed money, things like that. Scouts say that, he's pretty athletic and long. He'd be a great fit for a team that likes to run. So we'll see if he gets the opportunity. It'll be kind of cool because, I got to take a couple of classes with him, talk to him on campus, things like that. He seemed like a very down to earth and humble person. So, we'll see come Thursday.
Well, I hope that. Exactly. I hope a guy like Casper gets an opportunity to be all world, in college like he was player of the year the whole bit, and then gets a look because it's funny how NBA, it seems, it's so rare that those guys seem to make a huge impact in the league just on a league-wide standing. Like, for example, my opinion only, I think Kyrie Irving is a very good player. He ain't heard squat from Kyrie Irving. Plays on a bad team, bad owner. The city, you see how they did LeBron. You ain't heard nothing from him. You got a lot of young guys out there. It seems to be, in my opinion, the NBA is more like where you go than really who you are. That's why I think this guy Nerlens, Kentucky, all world. But if you don't come off that you don't come off that injury right, and you land in a place like Milwaukee or something, man, you may be in the league shorter than you ever dreamed. And so, there's another guy I'm keeping an eye on, Shane Larkin. Miami Hurricane, Barry Larkin, Hall of Fame baseball player. Your son's, decided to pick up the round ball. And great ball handler, good shooter, had a good combine. There's going to be a lot of steals in this draft, I think. Guys that won't have the name, but they'll have the hunger, to come out and prove something, because, like I said, I think Nerlens even got something to prove. You at Kentucky, that knee, it doesn't hold up. You're toast. So he's got something to prove. This ain't a premier draft. This isn't a D Wade, Chris Bosh. 3 of the first 5 draft picks, were in the Final Four last year. It's not going to be that kind of draft. It's going to be a quiet draft where you're going to have to, who? He went where? You're going to have to look up.
Look at the Rookie of the Year, Damian Lillard. He came out of Weber State, he was the Rookie of the Year. I think another guy like C.J. McCollum, he's coming out of Lehigh, 6'3", 6'4", point guard. Well, he might be 6'5", but, he had his shining moment 2 years ago in the tournament when they beat Duke. So, a lot of people will be looking at him. I think, probably as a steal or, first-round pick.
Absolutely. Great point, though, about Lillard, because most people don't know that. He was Weber State. You don't get much smaller than that. So, props, doing your homework. But, yeah, I'll still be watching anyway. It's always an exciting time for these young guys, to get on. But interesting summer, man. We'll have more Dwight Howard talk next week, I'm sure, as the deadline approaches. July 1st, is it?
Yeah, July 1st is that's the first day of free agency, right? Yeah.
First day of free agency. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, and I think that any team interested in Dwight, it would behoove them to move quickly, because he has shown you that he don't give a damn about squatting. You know how that old saying, squat or get off the pot? He'll squat forever. He's all too happy to draw it out. Keep the suspense going, so to speak. So, again, I'm hoping for a quick exit for Dwight. That's just me. But you never know. We'll have more, obviously, next week. Some more baseball updates, local stuff.
Yeah.
Soccer update coming up.
Yeah, real quick,
And,
congrats to the Blackhawks. They're your best team all year in the NHL. They got it done and won the Stanley Cup. Last night, they actually was a comeback. They were, down 2-1 with like a minute left, and they scored 2 goals in the last 2 minutes to win 3-2 on the road. So, they're best team all year, and usually it doesn't work out like that, best team all year, and then you end up winning the championship. But it worked out for them. And then also, we'll see how the UCLA Bruins do tonight in baseball. They're looking for their first NCAA title in baseball. They actually have 108 school titles altogether in all sports, which is the most out of any college. But and then Mississippi State, they're actually looking for their first national title in anything, but they'll have to win the next 2 in order for that to happen. So we'll see tune in. I think it's on ESPN or ESPN2 at 5 o'clock.
Nice. Well, there you go. All right. Well, that said, my man, we will close this one out. I appreciate you, as always. I think we covered the topics, most of them effectively, some of them quickly. But, of course, we are pressed for time. I do appreciate you each and every week. Stacey Porter, man, you call me when you get a chance, bro. I know pimping ain't easy, and you constantly doing it. So get at us, man. We love to have you in here. Oh, boy, next week, more baseball updates, obviously. Talk a little bit about the draft. We'll know who's going where. NBA free agency will have begun or close to it. We'll be on the eve of it. And, we'll go from there. So, with that, I'll bid you for what I'm going to do, man. I'll talk to you next week. You got anything hot on the plate, just hit me up. I appreciate it. And anybody out there listening, StaceySports.com, leave your comments, tips, ideas, recipes. Barbecue season is in full effect. So, definitely we can do that. Okay, man, Adam, I appreciate you. Later.
All right, now, summer is here.